Hey everyone, this is Nicole Nowosad and welcome back to another process video by Just Nick. Today I'm sharing a layout that I created using the xoxo background cut file from my Just Nick cut shop. And let's get started. So instead of actually cutting the design out, I have a silhouette cameo. So what I did is I went ahead and used just a black sketch pen and just kind of laid the design out on my paper where I wanted it. And it just, as you can see here, I just sketched it out with my sketch pen. And it works really, really well with watercolors. So I've tried this before, and I really like the look. It's a super easy way to make a project. Very, very low cost too. Like really, most of the work here is in the watercoloring. So I'm just going ahead and I'm just using my watercolor paints here. I think I got these from Michael's. It's a really good set actually. There's quite a few different colors, and I like that you can kind of mix colors together to get the right shade that you want. So, and I use my water brush pen instead of the actual brush that comes with the palette, just because I kind of like, even though you can see me kind of dipping my brush in off screen there, I just like the hold of it more than I guess the holy, I can't talk today, more than the actual brush. It's kind of wider, and if I decide I want to add a little bit of water to my area, I can just easily give it a little squeeze and add some water quickly. But for the most part, I really do just dip it into I have a jar of water there just off camera. So I'm just kind of picking some paint colors here that match with the photos I'd chosen. And they're all kind of like warm colors. So I have like this red and this brown and this kind of like peachy tan color. And then I've kind of mixed a couple of the watercolor paints together here. There's like a green and a blue I mixed to make that like teal kind of color. And then this is like a darker gray. Just kind of adding in, starting off with a little bit and then trying to add some more. And one thing, I'm not really a pro at watercolors by any sort of means, but you can see at the beginning I tried to make my designs maybe a little too tidy. So I ended up going back in again and just kind of adding up darker shades of that same color over top of each one as they dried a little, and that kind of gives it a little bit more about that watercolor kind of look. So once I've done that actually didn't take me very long. You know, once you get started, and if you have your colors chosen ahead of time, it makes it even easier. So I'm just going to add some color shine here, black color shine. And while that dries, I'm going to pick some papers. And I didn't plan any of this layout ahead of time other than the fact that I knew I was going to sketch out that background. And so the rest of it, I'm kind of just sorting through my stuff and deciding what I want to use with it. And so I'm just pulling out some stuff from my stash. I have some basic gray papers and some Amy Tangerine papers. And I grabbed some items here from Hip Kits that I had. This is a My Mind's Eye paper I kind of been hoarding. And so I really haven't decided kind of what I want to do at this point, other than I'll just pick some papers that match the colors I've painted. The smart thing to probably do would have been to pick the papers first and then paint according to the papers that I've chosen, but that's not always how I roll, and that's okay. You know, I have a lot of paper in my stash. Paper's probably like the one thing, if I go to the store, I could easily spend $50 just on paper, because I just feel like I can do a lot of things with paper on its own and without a bunch of other stuff, so mostly because of my cameo. So I have a lot of paper, and so I'm not really worried about finding something that won't work or will work. You know, I'm sure I'll have a shade of something that will match. And I'm not really concerned with what's new and what's not. These are newer papers that I'm using, but I am not afraid to use something that's maybe a little bit older in my stash or something I've had for a few years. I keep paper forever, it seems, and I really use it just for the color more than even the pattern sometimes. You know, if there's just like something odd on it, I probably won't use it, but for the most part, I keep almost every piece of paper I have. So I ended up deciding to go with this polka dot here from Amy Tangerine, and then a piece of this paper here from Crepe Paper. And I really like that aqua. It's a really good basic pattern to have in your stash. So I think I had probably 3 sheets of that. I like both that floral side there, as well as this kind of stitched aqua. Is that aqua or turquoise? I think that's aqua, right? Aqua's more green. Anyway, I'm just going to layer the polka dots over top of that. And that kind of brings that kind of tealy blue color XO, as well as that polka dot heart or polka dot there together with the red. And then I'm going to use some scraps of this paper. This is from Tea Garden from Basic Gray. It's a really pretty kind of corally red color. And I really have a hard time with red in general. I find that there's not a lot of papers that I like that are really great red colors. I don't know if it's just some of them are too cool and some of them are too warm, and then mixing them with other colors, I find I have a hard time. But this was pretty easy. I really like that Amy Tangerine polka dot. It's really cool, and I like that ombre effect you can see there with the dots. They range in different shades. So yeah, and I'm just going to add some little bits and pieces here of pattern paper just to get some more color onto this side of the page. And I'm just going to do minor layering. I'm going to call this minor, even though there's quite a bit of stuff, but really just tiny little bits here and there. And I love this. I'm going to use the glitter side of this. There's like a gold stripe from some crepe paper also, and just add a little bit of it because I thought the gold was kind of cool with that kind of tan and brown watercolor paint that I chose. I thought it kind of was, I don't know, a nicer, sparklier version. I love glitter, so not glitter itself, but glitter paper and pieces like that I think are a good touch. So I'm going to go ahead and add just a ton of, I end up adding like a bunch of stitching, and I end up editing some of this out because it was just quite a bit of stitching. So I just added some stitching over all those little pieces there. You can kind of see I'm just going to trim off all that mess there and just around my paper. And I'll just bend my paper a couple times just because that watercolor did warp the paper just slightly. And I have some shapes here that are die cut. Now this thicker one here is from the my cut shop too. It's called Scribbles 3, I believe, and this is just one of them I have cut out. And the skinnier ones there are actually a freebie you can find on the Scrapbook and Cards Today blog. I'll put a link in the comment section for this video. It's one I did for them probably about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And so I'm just spraying that into some Heidi Swap gold color shine and letting that dry. And what I did with the Scribbles 3, that wider scribble, is it's on adhesive cardstock by Silhouette, and I've just attached it to a piece of cardstock and ran it through my typewriter, and I just typed love you, love you, love you all over and over and over again. And now I'm just rubbing some more of that Heidi Swap color shine, the gold. I'm just kind of dabbing it in place and then rubbing it with my finger to kind of make like a, I want to say gilded kind of look. I thought about heat embossing it because it kind of like bubbles a little bit when you heat emboss the color shine, because I kind of think that looks cool. It's an easy way to get just some texture, but I'll be honest that I was just being too lazy this day, because I actually filmed 3 videos in one day because I had the whole day off from work without kids. It was fabulous. Anyway, but I didn't, so I really like how it turned out with running it through my typewriter. I'm totally going to do that again. It was super easy way. It's like I made my own pattern paper die cut. So I'm just trimming down some of my photos, and one of them was a lot smaller than the others, so I'm just going to use it as a template and kind of trim off the excess so they're all kind of the same size. But then I realized that they're all kind of a little too small at the end of it. So what I'm going to do after that is, you'll see, I'm just going to grab a scrap of white cardstock and kind of make, well, I guess a thicker mat for them all. So I'm just going to use this one sheet here and line them all up. And I'm going to stagger left and right sides for this here. Because I'm going to do something to the sides after. And this way, at least now they're all the same size and they're just a little bit larger. They were all just a little too skinny and short for what I wanted to have them do on my page. So I'm just going to kind of line them up how I think I want them. And I end up changing the position a little bit later, but I was going to sew, and then I realized I wanted to add their names to each of those blank areas. So I have these letter stickers. I think I've had these for a couple years, but what I love about little mini alphas is they kind of never go out of style. Like if you buy a set, they last a long time. And especially this set here, there's like, look, one of each color pretty much in the rainbow. And there's even some little words and stuff underneath, which is kind of fun. So I'm just adding each of my kids' names to the photo, and then I'm going to go in afterwards and just do like a little zip all the way through with my sewing machine, just sewed through their words, just for a little bit of added texture to each of the photos. Super cheap and super easy to do that, and fast too. So it kind of just adds a little more, because the photos too, like there's one that's black and white and 2 that are in color, kind of just makes them more similar. So as you know, although they are different, and like I said, black and white and color and everything, and girls and boys too and all that jazz, at least the color, the little mini alphas, even though they're different colors, kind of just draws a common draws a common theme throughout the 3 photos. So that's just my, I guess, my tip of the day for that. And of course I will pop dot all my photos because I like the shadow that creates. So really quickly with my paper piercer. And then I kind of am trying to decide what to do from here. So I'm going to grab that die cut scribble and kind of play around with those ones that have dried already. Those thinner ones have dried. And so I'm just going to place one underneath each photo it ends up being. And I'm just going to add a little tape runner and then stick my photos down in place. And I started with the middle photo and sticking it down so that I got the 2 other photos kind of lined up, you know, along that line, staggered a little bit. So because I find if you line something up perfectly, it never really lines up straight. So it's better to kind of purposely stagger, and then it looks like it was meant to be that way. Now is where I'm kind of playing around with what I also want to add to this page, and this is where I kind of had a bit of a hard time because I had the whole background idea in my head, and I had these photos of the kids, and I had these circles. So I'm like, okay, this is great, you know, but then I thought, oh, I didn't really pick embellishments or kind of what else I wanted to put on my page. And if you've been watching a couple of my videos, you'll know I like to add a lot of what else to my page. So I'm just going to play around with some of these stickers here and ended up taking some of them off. And then I found my pack here. I think these are can I speak? I think these were Dear Lizzie. I think they're Dear Lizzie. Foam hearts. Or were they giving me tangerine? I can't remember. Anyway, they're from American Crafts. And I decided to add some of these to the centers of the O's. And I kind of like how that turned out because they were pretty white. It's quite a bit of a white area. And so then I added some of these X's and O's from the pack also. I think that looks kind of cute, mimicking the background pattern. I'm going to shove that away, and then I'm going to kind of decide to do a couple other things. Just digging through my embellishments. I really wanted to use some of these crepe paper stickers. I thought that would look cool. And I'm going to grab a label here and a tag and stick these underneath. And see if that kind of, because I felt like there's that open area down at the bottom where the cut file ended. You can kind of see there's like an open X and O space underneath that red X and O. So I'm just going to add a couple of these tags in there, and later on I will take one of them off because that's how I do things. I was kind of a bit blocked at this point what else I wanted to add because it was pretty busy and I didn't want it to be super crazy busy. So I'm just kind of play around a little bit more with some of these stickers, and then I decide to grab my tag box, and I have these ones here by Kiss Kiss by Crepe Paper, so I added that tag instead of the XO. And then I thought, oh, I should add some more glitter, kind of gold glitter in behind the photos, and I found these little tags in my Crepe Paper die cut pack. I can't remember which die cut pack that was in. Sorry, but it was definitely crepe paper. So I added one to each of the photos, and then I ended up removing that one label and just put in, what did I put in that spot? I don't know if I actually put anything else in that empty spot now that I think about it. Well, I guess we'll find out at the end. And then I found these rub-ons here. I think these are also from My Mind's Eye. I think it was Jubilee was the line. And I just kind of cut apart the hearts. I'm just going to lay them on my page in a couple different spots. I do think every layout needs to have a little bit of black somewhere on it. So this, I did add the color shine, but this here ties that little bit of color shine in also. So I'm just going to rub that on with my stylus here. This is a stylus I had probably for like 13 years from a Fisker's embossing, gosh, I don't even know what it's called. It was like this big contraption, and it had plates and the stylus you could emboss things and stuff. I thought it was like the most wicked cool thing ever when I got it, but I probably never used it, or I used it very, very little. But I kept that stylus. It's pretty awesome, and it has a thinner and a thicker end. And yeah, that's pretty much my page. So here's a couple shots, close-ups. Here's one of the background there that I watercolored up. And then you can kind of see here how I typed on that scribbles cut. and added the gold mist. And then, of course, here's my finished page, and I ended up adding those tags back on there in the bottom. And yeah, that's it. So I hope you like this video. Please visit my shop for some cut files, and if you want more ideas or layout ideas, you can always visit my blog at justnix.blogspot.com. Have a good day.